Well, John, it is the fall and it is really the beginning of that time of year. We got pumpkin spice. I don't know if you're much of a pumpkin spice guy.
Hey, I have my pumpkin spice latte as we
You got
speak.
your pumpkin spice. I am not a pumpkin spice guy. Some people like that pumpkin spice. I'm not a pumpkin spice guy. You got leaves falling. You got the leaves falling in Pennsylvania.
Leaves are falling, chill is in the air, pumpkin candles are lit. We have
Oh, Halloween's around the corner. We got football season in full gear. But that's not the season we're talking about today, because today we're talking about the season that everybody loves in the college admissions world. Everyone's excited about it, and everyone is extremely confused because they're overwhelmed and they're intimidated by this process we're talking about today. Today, guys, we're talking about the FAFSA. This is committed, the College Admissions Playbook. John, how you doing, man?
Rennie. All is well. October 18th, it's a Friday, casual Friday here in our office, as you can see.
Casual Friday here in my office. Oh, let's be honest though, Johnny. Every day is a casual day in our office. When's the last time you wore a tie to your office?
Oh, to the office. Probably never. Collared
Yeah.
shirt a month ago.
Collared shirt. Okay.
Collared shirt.
I'm a big golf shirt guy. Big golf
Okay.
shirt guy. Yeah.
Yeah, we're pretty casual
Yeah. I
here at
like
our
golf shirts because you never know when you might have to go get an emergency 9 in, and I keep the clubs in the back of the car just in case. Just in case.
See, I
But,
can't wait till I can't
fall.
wait till I get to that phase of fatherhood where
Oh yeah. Well, you're not there
I
yet.
have the time to be able to go out and shoot nine.
Yeah, that's why I call it an emergency 9, because you got to get in real quick. But fall golf is the best golf. Pumpkin spice, which you're knocking down right now, it's okay. I'm not a big fan. Not a big fan of the pumpkin spice. I do like fall. Football season's in full gear. I don't know how your team's doing. But listen, one thing we do share, John, when it comes to football, is our Steelers.
That's
They're
right.
not doing too bad. They're not doing too bad. I didn't like the late loss to the Cowboys, though.
Pittsburgh. So, fun fact, live in Pittsburgh, grew up 50 miles north, been here my whole life. I don't root against the Steelers, but I'm actually a Bills fan.
Yeah, I respect that. I respect that. That had to be a frustrating childhood for you going through the 90s.
Yeah.
But that could have been the easiest thing in the world. But hey, I like
Yeah,
it.
I wish I was a bandwagon fan where, as soon as they drafted Josh Allen, all was well. But there were some torturous times back in the 90s.
These are the conversations we have in the fall, right? We talk about the weather, we talk about football, we talk about pumpkin spice. But in our world around college admissions, there's a lot of talk around this thing called financial aid, and specifically this intimidating, overwhelming form called the FAFSA, in the process that it really gets started. So, John, I know that for everyone, those of you listening, John is like the guru of financial aid and FAFSA. So if you have questions about financial aid and FAFSA, you need to be connecting with John Izzo, because this guy knows his stuff. And I'm excited because I know I'm going to learn today some things about FAFSA. But John, here's what I need you to do. I need you to explain this to me like I'm a 6-year-old, because you go too deep, you're going to lose me. And you'll start seeing a glossy color over my eyes, and I'll be like, dang, this is. So we need to keep it simple for me.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's start off with just some simple explanation of what is the FAFSA.
The free application for federal student aid. Okay.
You got me at free.
Free. So, like Rennie said, at this point in the year, applications are out on the websites, on the email spams that everyone is getting. They are sharing the FAFSA is either being released or there has been a soft release. So what the free application for federal student aid, it's an application available to everybody within the country, and it gives students and families the opportunity to apply for free federal money, which could then trigger potentially free state money, and then also free institutional money.
I like the idea of free money. So you're talking about free money here.
Potentially. Now there,
Potentially.
with everything else in life, there is an asterisk there.
There's
So
an asterisk.
in a perfect world, yes, free money is out there, but for the majority of the population, it doesn't always necessarily mean free money at every university that you may or may not attend.
Okay, so when you start talking about free money, this is where, and once again, I don't understand this that well. I start immediately thinking of, need, like this is need-based money. And, I know enough that this is need-based money, but the reality, why should I take the time to fill out this form? Because I really don't think I'm going to qualify for any of that need-based money. So why, is this just a waste of my time?
Yes and no. So I get that question often. And, for families who have older children that went through it and they maybe experienced it the first time and know free grant money, which is need-based,
Yeah.
came into play, and they have experience with it, knowing that they did not utilize what was available, then they can opt to, you know what, I'm not going to waste my time.
Okay.
So let's use hypotheticals, because I feel like throwing some scenarios out there will give people the best way to visualize how this could pan out. So I'm working with a family and they see the FAFSA is available. They say we should apply for it. And they tell me, we don't think we're going to be eligible for any need-based money. And, I'm not going to throw out any, specifics, but I can say on here pretty confidently, if a family in a household is earning more than, let's say, $80,000, odds are you are not going to get any free grant money. So let's use, a family of four, total household income, 50,000. There's a very decent chance that the student would then be granted the federal Stafford loan, or I'm sorry, the federal Pell Grant, which is free money that comes from the federal government. When the Pell Grant is applied, that could then trigger state grant money and then institutional grant money, depending on the school. Now, for the families that have a much higher income, or even a slightly higher income that might not make them eligible, then we get into, okay, so you are not awarded the federal Pell Grant. So fun fact for everybody, if you see the word grant anywhere, it's free money and it's usually based on financial aid. Scholarships are based on achievements. Now, for a family that's making 100,000+, in most cases, they are going to see on their financial aid package that they were awarded a $5,500 federal Stafford loan. But what's confusing a little bit is it's on the financial aid package and it's usually labeled as an award. So they see award and they automatically think, okay, this $5,500 is free money. But in reality, it's a loan that needs to be paid back. The perk of it is because it's federally funded, it's going to have a much lower interest rate compared to any other private loan that the parent or the student might have for.
So I'm not just getting, so I fill this out, I can get grants. But now you start talking about loans. Is this how I get loans too, through filling out this FAFSA?
This is how the student would get a loan. One particular fairly small loan.
Okay.
So the conversations that I'm having with my families when we're deciding, is it worth the aggravation? I ask them, do you have any money set aside in a 529? How much are you going to contribute per year? And if we know their income is going to put them out of eligibility, my next question is, regardless of how much money you plan on supporting them with, do you want them to finance any portion of their first year? because what's good about the federal Stafford loan is it's in the student's name, no cosigner required. And again, it's going to have a lower interest rate. So a lot of families that I work with will say we have $80,000 in a 529. And we plan on, just divvying that up over 4 years. So we're going to utilize 20,000 a year for 4 years, but their school might cost 30 a year. So then we need to figure out how to come up with that additional $10,000. And if we're going to finance, what makes the most sense is apply for the FAFSA, get that $5,500 federal Stafford loan at 5%. And then if you have to finance a private loan for the other 4,500, yes, that loan interest rate might be 8 to 18%. So we want to take advantage of the cheaper money that's federally funded.
Sure. So it sounds like, in just, simple terms, this free application for federal student aid can really open the door to lots of different funding, right? From free money to loans, all of those different types of things. So, do I fill this form out for every school? Tell me a little bit about that from the operational side. Do I fill out this form? I'm applying to 5 schools. Do I fill it out 5 times? How does that work?
As a lot of people probably saw last year, they made a lot of adjustments to the FAFSA. And that was one of the several reasons that there was a delay. And, typically the FAFSA application opens October 1st of a student's senior year. Last year, they were rolling this out. There were all sorts of bugs. So they delayed it until after January, I think, which then created a whole nother set of issues with getting colleges the financial information to be able to send out financial aid packages. So this year, 17 days ago, it was supposed to launch for our current seniors. It launched, but as a soft launch. So now there's only a select few that can do it. Personally, I'm telling all of my families that I work with, we're not going to touch it until January.
Okay.
Because I don't want it to run into issues. I don't want the server to break. There's no rush with doing this initially. So when they are doing the application, whenever the time comes, there is one application that is actually divided into 2 parts. So the application itself, a student has to create an account, and there are certain questions that the student needs to fill out. Name, address, what high school they go to. Are they going for a first-year undergraduate degree, so on and so forth. Within that section, that is also where they are including, here are all the schools that I want this information to be sent to. Then there is a parent side of the application where the parents will need their own login credentials, and they will then go in and submit their information, linking them to the student, sharing how they filed their taxes in 2023, what is the W-2 or 1040 financial information, and then they will then have to start uploading info based on assets, savings accounts, cash on hand. So one application that can be sent to the entire list of schools.
So they're filling out one application. And then
Correct.
the student has a student side, the parents have a parent side, one application, and then they list in that application what schools they want that application to go to.
Correct. So
So
one
dive a
application.
little bit deeper in for me a little bit, if you don't mind, about tell me a little bit more. What kind of financial information do I need to have together as a parent or even as a student to be prepared to complete this application? What kind of information are they going to ask me to have?
For first year upcoming freshmen in college. So they are going to require financial documentation from 2023. So either the family's 1040 tax form or each parent's W-2 form.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to show basic income.
Okay.
And then there is a separate section where they are asking for, do you own a business? Please tally all of the assets that you own. And that's going to include vacation homes, 529 plans, any sort of investment outside of retirement.
So nothing in my 401k or nothing in my
Correct.
IRA or anything Roth. None of my retirement stuff's in there, but personal and business interests.
Personal and business interests. And then they will ask for cash on hand, cash savings checking.
Okay. So with that information, I'm putting that in there, right? And then it's going to all my 5 schools. Okay. So I fill out this free application. I give them all my financial information that basically the IRS is probably going to know about already. And I filled out those documents. What's really interesting is I am basing what I will get for the fall of 25 is going to be based on what I did in 23. That's kind of an interesting time.
Correct.
There. Okay. So when I send that off, and like you said, there's been some bumps and bruises, so I'm not going to commit you to any timeline. But how do I ultimately find out what I get?
Great question. This is one of the many waiting games that we have to play. So kids now waiting for their decisions to come in, it's excruciating. So we're waiting for a lot of schools to spit out decisions. I'm going to say anywhere between like Thanksgiving and Christmas from an acceptance standpoint.
Admissions. We're talking
Admissions.
about acceptance. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Now,
That's
when
if they apply early, right?
And that's if they apply earlier. If they hit the early action deadline, hopefully by mid to late December, they're going to hear back. From a financial aids perspective, if we are going to apply for the FAFSA in January, I would put a lot of money on not getting a financial aid package until middle of March. And this is where things get dicey because some schools will provide, and again, this comes back to our blanket statement that we have to use so often. It just depends on the school. And there are schools that will tell you, congratulations, you're accepted. And then you don't hear any scholarship talk, any financial aid until they receive that financial aid package, which might not be until March. And then there are other schools that will say, congratulations, you're in October. Scholarship offer is emailed to them in December. And then the financial aid package, which will then update their scholarship and then any additional need money in March. So there's a long wait between when it is submitted and ultimately what your final price is going to be.
So it's a little bit of a waiting game.
Very much.
Patience is a virtue in this process.
Very much.
So I'm getting information from all these schools, but is it safe to say I'm going to get the same thing from every school then?
Again, it depends on the school. Okay. So we're going to keep using hypotheticals because I feel like that's the only way that people can accurately relate to this.
Sure.
If they are applying to a large public school and they don't intend on getting any financial aid.
Okay.
I would suggest to them, if you don't receive any scholarship offers, merit-based scholarship offers by January, intend on paying close to sticker price. Just mentally prepare for that.
Okay.
Because the last thing that we want these families to do is hold on hope that a school has a sticker price of $50,000 and they are just miraculously waiting for a magical $20,000 grant to come through in March to make it realistic enough to go to. It's probably not going to happen. Now, when we get into the private schools, that's where it's way less predictable because as we all know, private schools are typically way more expensive upfront. But when the FAFSA is on file, depending on the grades, depending on the financial circumstances, they are usually able to hide need-based money or institutional money a little bit better. So if you have a large list of public schools that you're applying for, I would absolutely apply for it just to see if they're likely to get any institutional aid. even if the federal aid doesn't come through.
So at the end of the day, it's really best to delay a decision until you know all the facts and get your individual packages from each of your different schools. So in our hypothetical scenario, I've applied to 5 schools. I've been admitted to 5 schools. And now I'm waiting for my scholarship packages, but I'm also waiting for my financial aid package that'll tell me what I'm really on the hook for at those 5 schools before I make a decision, so I can have all the facts.
In a perfect world.
In a perfect world, right?
Which we know we don't live in. And that makes a lot of people uncomfortable because, again, we won't know what the concrete numbers are until 6 weeks before they have to commit to their school.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why I try to be transparent with everybody and give them a realistic number that they can anticipate to pay. And at that point, if you are okay with paying this number that we can assume is going to be, yeah, feel free to commit, get your housing in order, start doing your orientation. But as long as they're realistic and they're okay with that anticipated number. But the last thing that we want is somebody to just miraculously think that all this money is going to come through with financial aid. And then that shock comes in mid-March and it's like, oh shit, we need to totally rethink all of this because we have to decide by May 1st.
Yeah. So you said I can get free money through grants, right? That's the key word. When we see the word grant, it's free money. You talked about loans a little bit, right? Are there any other types of aid that I can have access to by completing the FAFSA?
The 3 big ones: federal grant money, free money.
Yep.
Scholarship money, which is based on achievements.
Mm-hmm.
Institutional, typically grant money, and then the loans.
Mm-hmm.
For the most part, that is good. That one of those 3 things will trigger.
Mm-hmm.
At least one of those 3 things will trigger. Hopefully, you get a combination of some, so you're not just getting awarded a loan. But again, in reality, for 90% of the population, the loan's going to come through, and that's about it.
So tell me about this thing called work study. Is that a thing? How do I get work study? How's that work?
I'm glad you brought that up because that was the one piece of it that truthfully I forgot about. So work study is a piece of the financial aid application, and it's not something you have to apply for. It is, again, based on need eligibility. It is a job available for students who qualify that is on campus, guaranteed a certain number of hours per semester. Now, I think every school is different as far as if you can utilize those funds and apply it towards tuition, or if it's simply a job guaranteed to you for spending money. But yes, that's another piece of it that could be awarded.
Mm-hmm.
Is a $5,500, $6,000 work study program that's guaranteed to them. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that if a student wants to go get a job on campus, it's not available. A work study just means that they have to offer them a position.
And you have to go work. And you have to go work.
Work.
Right? And you have to go work and earn it. Yeah. You have to go work and earn it. And it's like a subsidized way for a student to get a job on campus. They don't see that money, but they'll make the money like they would through having a job. And what's happening behind the scenes is the federal government is subsidizing the institution for that position to pay that student. When I was the dean of students, I loved work study students. I love to hire them, love to hire students, but work study students were great because it was a little easier on my budget because I knew that wage was going to be subsidized, and great way to work on campus. So, Johnny, that's a lot, man.
I know.
I do this one and done. How often do I have to go through this process?
Sadly, every year.
Oh.
If you want to reap the benefits, every year.
Okay, so do I start from ground zero every year? Do I just update application every year? I mean, is it just every year? I mean, I guess the nice thing about years 2, 3, and 4, I picked an institution and it's really just at that institution I'm dealing with. So that makes it a little simpler. But everything starts anew and I have to renew the whole thing?
You have to renew the whole thing. Now, the good news is the accounts are set, and please, 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 anybody who's listening, if you are going to do it and you are going to utilize any portion of the award, write down your username, your password, your student's username, your password, because retrieving them are a pain in the butt.
Yeah. Yeah. Now you said an interesting thing there, John. You said if you're utilizing them. So if I fill out this application and I get an award letter from a school, I'm not required to use it. I'm
You are
not
not.
in a contract. Do I have
You-
to accept the whole thing, or can I accept parts of it? Like I want the grant money, but I don't want the loan money, or I want the work study, but I don't want the loan. I mean, how does that work?
The families will have the power to accept or decline any portion of the financial aid package.
So like you can do line item veto. I can veto this part, but I can take this part. Awesome.
Yes.
What
Yes.
happens if like in the middle of a semester, something happens, right? I have the financial aid on file and I accepted the free money, but something happened in the middle of the semester that maybe was an unexpected emergency for my family, or we just didn't budget as well as we thought we did, and I didn't accept that loan money. And in the middle of the semester, I need some help. Can I go to the financial aid office and get that turned on?
So that is where I don't want to say expertise, because this is all self-proclaimed, but from my experience, mid-semester, I would recommend going to the financial aid office to see what your options are.
Yep.
I feel like if some unexpected occurrence were to happen during the first semester, you should still be able to go and access your financial aid portal within your school's account
Yes.
and be able to then trigger, you know what, I initially declined the unsubsidized Stafford loan for fall or spring semester. I would like to turn that on. I
Yeah.
feel like that should not be as much of an issue, but mid-semester, I would consult with the financial aid office before immediately going and trying to apply for a private loan.
Yeah, regardless of whatever institution's probably going to have a different process around that. But the fact that your FAFSA is already on file is going to accelerate how quickly you're going to be able to get the support and aid in your hands if you run into that family emergency where cash flow is strapped. Because here's the deal, you don't want to be in the middle of the semester like this time of year, and all of a sudden there's crisis and you can't pay rent, you can't pay food, but you really can't, you could drop out of school, I guess, but you've already paid for all your classes. What a waste. That might be a time where you might like, well, it's going to be worth to get a loan, right? Because if I dropped out right now, I lose all my money. So there is an additional, for my old days as a dean, there's an additional benefit of filling out the FAFSA, of just having it on file in case, unfortunately, some crisis happens that affects your family or your personal cash flow. John, a lot of good stuff here, man. A lot of good stuff here. And we could talk for hours about this. I appreciate you sharing your expertise around it. What's one last word of advice you would give every family in our 16 listeners around the FAFSA?
I'm going to sound like such a nerd. I mean, you could probably tell, I love the FAFSA. And I love this process because it's an avenue to open doors. And it's a process that's daunting and confusing for a lot of people. But once you take the time to actually learn it and understand it, it's way more manageable than what people think.
Mm-hmm.
So my advice is, for year one, do it.
Yeah.
Do it. See what comes of it. I mean, truthfully, if you're careful, if you have all the documentation you need, if you're writing down all of your accounts, it'll take an hour.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would do it, see what comes of it, and then as a family, assess, is it worth doing it again?
Yeah.
And the reason, you kind of alluded to it too, if you have the FAFSA on file, it's going to make any additional conversations streamlined.
Yeah.
Now, you brought up a good point about, it's ironic, we're going into the 25-26 school year, but we're submitting financials from 2023. A lot can change in 36 months, 24 months.
Yeah.
So let's throw out another scenario that, happens sadly far too often. A family has an income in 2023, mom or dad gets laid off, or position goes under, whatever the case is, and there is now a large discrepancy between what we showed we made 2 years ago
Mhm,
versus what's actually coming in now.
mhm.
So you need the FAFSA on file to then be able to submit a financial aid appeal form to then appropriately document what the change was, when it happened, why. And if you don't have a FAFSA on file, that process, it's not that it can't be done, but they're always going to tell you any appeal has to have a FAFSA link to it to streamline the process.
Yeah. John, that's some great information, man. I appreciate you sharing it. And listen, if there are questions around FAFSA, here's what I would tell you. You need to lean into it and not run from it, right? The one thing we know for sure is that if you don't apply, you will not get anything. So in this season of pumpkin spice and fall football, and one of my favorite things, fall golf, Johnny's got his pumpkin spice right there.
So
It's
embarrassing.
also FAFSA season. And this is not something to run from. This is something to lean into. I love what John said. It can open opportunities. It can open up opportunities. So don't automatically disqualify yourself. And if you need anything, if you have questions, you're welcome to contact us here at Committed, the College Admissions Playbook.